gotta get the hell out of here.
You wanna join?
You win, you walk out of here alive. Lose, it's your judgment day. Show 'em.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Panels on Pages. My name is Dalibor, and today I am joined by three gentlemen that I affectionately call the Minor Boys. I have been a fan since even longer than I realized, because the story goes back even further back than me knowing about the comic book. I bought art from these guys at a show last minute. I had like $4 in pocket, and they were like, "We got prints, $2 a piece." I bought 2 prints, and then years later, I was like, "Man, I wish I could find those guys." And I saw the print on the banner, and I was like, "Holy shit, it's the guys!" So here we are. I'm joined by Jake, Matt, and Kevin Miner. How are you guys doing today?
Doing good, man. It's a good history, isn't it?
It's a great history. Like it's just been a pleasure knowing you guys and seeing you guys go through all this. Like, the story is fantastic. We're just gonna get right into it. What everyone just saw, I'm gonna preamble this with a little clip of the trailer. What everyone just saw is a trailer of the upcoming Dead Man's Hand film based on your guys' book, No Rest for the Wicked. I always forget the name for some reason. I always remember the story. I remember the moment, like the great fucking moments, like the moments in this fucking story. And then I always like, what the fuck's the name of the book? So I've got it right here. I've got my entire collection. I've got every version you could get.
Oh wow,
You know,
yeah.
I've got all the singles. I've got the like small press, with the white border there. And then I've got, of course, the original trade from Source Point Press. New trade is out and available right now for everybody. So if you don't have it yet, you absolutely should get it. Links, of course, where they need to be. Let's just go back to the beginning for you guys. Let's get a quick 30-second origin for how did you get into comics? One of you guys is the culprit of being the oldest and having brought them in for the first time. How did that all happen?
It's the space
Throw it over his fault beard.
I'm the oldest. We always loved cartoons and comic books growing up, and so I always made sure that they were around. And Jake and I, we made a deal early on where I was using all my lawn mowing money to buy everything I could buy from Marvel, and he was going to help me out and buy whatever DC was offering, because I couldn't really afford to get everything anymore once comic books went over 30 cents.
Yeah.
But in college, actually, I was part of the vanguard of digital coloring in Detroit. And we actually we had a deal with our publisher, Access Comics, out of Detroit, started by Larry Stroman and Todd Johnson, that they were going to publish a book that we wrote and Jake drew, and I was inking, and then our studio was going to color it, but things did not work out for Access Comics, and then therefore us. But we still did some stuff for a couple of years. I continued to color comics for a couple of years. Worked on a couple different publishers' books, and then also some different card sets for Tops and Upper Deck as a colorist. And then I dropped out of it for a little while because I didn't want to move to San Diego or New York, and I was doing a lot of graphic design, and so I pursued that for a while. But then, and I think 2000
for us, yeah, I'm sorry, Matt, I was just going to jump in, but I think for us, it's something that we've embraced and loved since we were kids. We were always drawing as kids, and at every level, from college through our professional career, we were involved in some way. We were always doing something. We all have 9-to-5s. It was always kind of the side hustle. We'd go to Comic-Cons, as fans, but also, we'd have some work, and, we'd kind of get to know people and mix and mingle, and hey, would you look at my portfolio. Would you take a look at this? And Matt was working with some people that were professionals at that point, so we kind of started to network and get involved in that community and become a part of that community. And that just kind of grew from, I think, the point we were in college to, oh my God, 30 years later, like here we are doing this stuff. And it's like, I think it's just stuff we've always loved. We're kids at heart, and to have something we did become this it's living the dream in so many respects. So I think, my 11-year-old self is thrilled with my 49-year-old self at this point. It's just like what you always dream of.
I bet, man. I bet it's been great to just be on the periphery out here as a fan, watching you guys just get through all the stages here. So for those who are uninitiated, for those who don't know, Kevin, why don't you give us a pitch of the story of No Rest for the Wicked? What is the sales pitch?
Essentially, it follows Reno. He's a gambling gunslinger, and he gets in over his head with some disreputable types in the Old West, doing that gambling gunslinger life. And he finds himself at the mercy of a town boss named Clarence Bishop. After a card game gone wrong, gets revenge on Reno, leaves him for dead. Reno is saved by a local Native American tribe, and they end up imbuing him with the power of a Native American spirit, a Manitou. And in doing so, they kind of turn him into kind of a weapon against Bishop, because they have a problem with him too. But the thing is Reno learns how to use the Manitou and these powers. He finds that every time he does it, kind of comes at a cost, and takes a little piece of him as he does it, and so he has to square that in his revenge quest.
Fantastic.
I think that's more than
that's great. No, that's a great pitch. You just got to bring him in. It's just got to bring him in, and I love that.
If at the con table, will be like, "Get this! It looks cool. It's good."
And it does. It looks genuinely great. Jake, I believe you did all the pencils on this.
Yep.
Outstanding work. I've been a fan, for a long time. It's something where I remember talking to you a few years back, and I don't want to, you've got other things going on. You've got a movie out, but I know you were at one point trying to get into Marvel and things like that. Like with having your own book, is that, just to kind of give it up for the indie community, is that something that's like, hey, you've got this finished piece of work? Is that a bargaining chip when having those conversations with the major publishers, with publishers in general?
I think so, but I think once you have something like this, and it's hard to walk away from this for other things. Like this is kind of the dream, and this is something that you have ownership of. It's like, as much as you like would love to draw these other characters for Marvel, DC, these guys that you grew up just loving, these characters and things. I think this is a different ball game. This is your property. You have ownership of this. This is you are driving this. So it's different for me now. I think you always grow up and aspire to work for the big guys, but I think this is on our terms.
Yeah, to Jake's point, if somebody was like, "Hey, do you want to work on like Batman?" I'm like, "Cool, I'm going to walk over broken glass. I don't care. That sounds great." But it's when Batman's made into a movie. If like I had worked on Batman, that's cool. That's really neat. But Batman's not mine, right? Batman's not my baby. And so as amazing as it would be to do that, which I mean, in a heartbeat, right? It's very different when like when we were on set, for example, and something that had gone all the way back to concept with Matt, and then like we're fleshing it out, and then we kick it over to Jake, and Jake, we're like, "Hey Jake, draw this," and then we color it, and then we make the book, and then all of a sudden we see Jack Kilmer like walking up, and he's like got this, like me and Jake like grabbed each other like, dude, like we're like there's all this stuff going on, and me and Jake go, dude, like,
yeah, we immediately became like 10 years.
Oh my God.
Yeah, can't articulate one syllable. Yeah. Like just stuttering.
Think we did this happen.
Yeah.
I bet.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely wild to have something you drew, they wrote, and see it come to life. I mean, that I don't even know how to articulate it. It was just we just still can't articulate it. Kevin and I just looked at. We just did it with a look. We just looked at it like we're like, what is going on? This is too surreal.
It was very surreal, in like the best way possible. It was awesome.
Well, at all stages, I bet, right? You when you first put it together and you had the first, first pages done, and you look at it, you're like, wow, that's crazy. Like it's a done thing. And then when the first book is printed, you're holding it in your hands. It's like, this is a thing that just like this came out of here out to here. This is crazy.
And this is kind of like the great story too. Like this had very humble beginnings. This was like, Matt and I had dabbled in some stuff, drawing and working with different people and some small publishers and stuff. And for a while we kind of got away from it because we were, very invested in our 9-to-5s at that point in our lives. And then Kevin graduated college, and Kevin kind of sparked it. He's like, hey guys, I'm kind of interested in doing some stuff. And it's like Kevin kind of got the band back together. And when we started doing No Rest, it was just an exercise for us to work together to see like what we could do together. And it started out, we were just putting it online, like we'll just put it online and see if, whatever, it's just for us really. And then I don't know how it came about. I don't know who made contact or what, but we had the publisher, SourcePoint Press, who saw it and said, what are you guys doing with this? And we're like, I don't know, what are we doing with it? And we're like, and then so we went from like being this kind of thing just for us to see if we could work together and put something together, to getting published, to getting optioned, to here we are with a movie. So I mean, it's that great story that you always dream about as a kid, and here we are.
The comic Twitter space is kind of had a bit of an upset recently in various different shades, but a big factor has been a bunch of people kind of talking their like comic book horror stories and like this, this is what I did, and all this stuff, and now I can't afford to XYZ. And like you guys said, it is a labor of love. 100%. And you guys have been doing 9-to-5s, right? You've been doing the whole thing. And Matt, you said you have you had some graphic design work and you did some coloring work, like for hire kind of stuff. How does it feel for you to have been kind of work for hire in industry, and then now to have your project that came out of your head that you own, like on the big screen next week, guys?
The goal was always to have fun doing this, and I think that where this is going, we are going to have a lot of fun next week. There's no two ways about it. Yeah, I think that the experience of doing all this work, the friends that we have that are strictly comic book artists, like that's a labor of love, 100%. I think that some of the choices that we made, we didn't love it as much because we didn't want to suffer that bad, but we still wanted to do stuff. We still wanted some of the suffering, but we picked it on different terms. We tried to do good professional work still, and we had enough experience that I think that we could do that. And I think we made some reasonably good plans. We executed the books real well, and we found some good partners. They believed in us, made some more contacts for the movies, and everything just kept coming together. But I think that the book itself, it really looks good. It looks unique. It's a good story, and I think that that keeps carrying it.
Absolutely. I think some of the best, like I said before, like there's a lot of great moments in this book, stuff that you're gonna like think back on. I mean, that card game, like there's a reason when we talked at C2E2, I was like, is that card game in it? And when I just saw it in the trailer, I was like, yes, like that's such like, because it's such an important, obviously it's such an important story moment, but it's such a cool moment, like as it shows us who Reno is, it shows us the entire scenario and who everyone is in that situation. So like I absolutely love like that scene. The I don't want to give anything away, but like the finale is so great that like to this day I'm like, can we get back to that? Can we like what happens after that? So like I obviously there's going to be changes in the movie. It's not it's not 1-to-1. It can never be 1-to-1. And
right.
Even when people try to do 1-to-1, it's never as good because it's a different medium. You're going to do things differently. It's never going to pan out the same way. So what would you say is something, we don't want to give anything away, but what's something that was maybe changed, but you're glad it was changed? Is there a new character? Is there a new love interest? Or, is there something that we didn't see in the book that we're going to see on screen that's going to get people even more invested in this story?
The answer is yes. All of it.
Well, I think to your point, they're different mediums. So definitely some things were altered to make it more, more movie friendly, like makes sense for that medium. versus it, like some things just don't translate, but yeah. Yes is the answer, right, Matt?
That's correct. I think the introduction of 3 new characters into the lexicon of the movie, going forward, I think that's going to be really big for the book. There's a prospector and a pair of gunfighters.
Fair enough.
No.
I have a feeling I know where you're going with that.
That's a joke. We have a cameo.
Yeah, there will be reverse engineered characters that will be made canon in the books.
Well, that's my next question, right? I've been sitting on this trade for a few years. When is No Rest Volume 2? Is that something that's already being worked on? Is that something that's like down the line?
We're in production on it. We're working on it right now. So
love to hear that.
Yeah. Well, there will be more. There's possibility that there could be a race if things go well and there's a sequel. I mean, there could be a race before the which comes out first. The book.
Oh,
let's get through.
Yeah, simmer down.
Listen.
I'm just saying.
Right.
It's the franchise era. There's nothing wrong with thinking about sequels. It's the franchise era. You can't make, especially not a superhero movie. I mean, look at what happened with Valiant, right? They made Bloodshot. Granted, it came out at the worst possible time.
Sure.
Let's kick off the pandemic with this movie that we need to make money in theaters. That was a bad that sucked. That sucked for them. But like aside from that, everybody's going franchise. Everybody's, Mario came out. What's the first thing out of everybody's mouth after everyone was like, "It's a great movie"? Franchise. When's the next one coming?
It's all about pushing that IP. I just came back from the Vegas licensing show for my 9 to 5, and it's all about pushing the IP. If you got the franchise, you're just gonna drive it till.
Yeah, that's why when everyone, I'm a Fast and Furious fan. Everybody complains about it. The people who don't watch it, even the people who watch it, kind of complain about it. Like, oh, there's freaking 11 of them, 12 of them now. Now they're gonna do another one. The finale is gonna be 3, and I was like, cool, give me 40. I don't care. Like, as far as the studio is concerned, they're gonna milk that cow till she's dry.
True story.
Like they're gonna do it until everyone's like, until there's like $0 left in the theaters. They're like, oh, we spent $100 million, we made $200. Like, that's when they'll stop making them. But like until then, because you know what they'll do once these guys are done, they're gonna not reboot it even necessarily. They'll just be like another Fast movie with like a new team. They'll go back to basics. It'll cost them $50 million to make it. People will be like, oh, this is exactly what we wanted, street racing, and the people are gonna go spend a bunch of money on it, and we're just gonna do this again for another 15 years.
Wasn't the first one about like DVD VCR combo, like
yeah,
they're
stealing DVDs. DVD players out the back of trucks. Yep, that's where it started. The like big set piece special effect was a jump stunt with a car, like the bare bones basic, like the most basic stunt you could do with a car. That was the big set piece, and then and now they go to space. So like, well, I said follow the Power Rangers story. After space, you got to go into a lost galaxy. Then you got to go time. You got to go back in time. Yeah, like something about light speed. Like, you guys just do all of it. And then at the end, you need to end up in Transformers universe. Bring it all together. Because I'm sick of watching humans in Transformer movies. So I'm like, what you do is you bring them for one crossover movie, and then Fast movies are just movies set in the Transformer universe, and Transformer movies are just robot movies. I just want to see giant robots punch each other. Why do I need drama?
Why is it so hard?
It's just not. I remember when the first movie came out, people were like, oh, they move too fast. Like, that wouldn't be physically possible. I'm like, it is a truck that turns into a 30-foot robot.
Right.
You're talking about.
Right.
Yeah. Everything else is fine though.
Yeah, right. That was the one problem. Oh, they move too fast. Not the transforming space aliens.
Yeah.
Right. That's where your suspense of disbelief.
It happens all the time. Every kind of movie. Somebody's like, oh, I don't know about that. It happens in every genre too. Like, I watched I forget what it was recently, but again, it was some sort of like tiny little nitpick, and I was like, this is what you're mad about. Like, this is a movie about space aliens, and you're mad about the gun's not firing the way it would. What? It's just like, it's looking to be mad for a reason. So I think if a movie comes out and it doesn't have haters, it's probably not good. So what we're looking for is like 20 to 30 haters a day for Dead Man's Hand.
Right. We made it.
We want
can
people to be
balance
complaining.
that against people who like it, that'd be great.
Oh, there's definitely gonna be people who like it, because as soon as you get haters, the people who liked it and people who loved it are gonna be like, wait a minute, why are you saying that? It was a great movie. That's like 33% of the internet right now. It's just people saying something bad about a property and somebody coming in and being like, it was actually really great.
Well, I sometimes feel like complaining about something or trying to nitpick it, like it leans towards somebody being like, see, I'm analytical and I'm smart, and I pull it apart. And it's like, I mean, while there can be like, yeah, like you can have like critical judgments about anything, sometimes, like to your point, it feels like sometimes people are doing it just to do it, you know?
Absolutely. I actually, the last episode of the podcast, I did a no spoiler review of Across the Spider-Verse, and I was like, I've got these like two little complete nitpicks, like absolutely great movie, loved it, would watch it 100 times, but these are like these two little dumb things that only matter to me. They shouldn't matter to anyone else, but it's just like, this is what bugged me about it. But it's like, but that's what people don't do all the time, is they don't say, oh, this is my thing. Yeah. This is like, this is a problem. Yeah, this is a problem for everyone should be mad about this. It's like, no, it's really not that big a deal.
If you're not mad, you don't love it.
Right? Yeah, because people, that's a big one for Black Panther. I see a lot of that. Like, oh, you don't really know T'Challa like that. You don't really know Black Panther like that if you like this movie. It's like, what are you talking about? Like,
we go way back.
Yeah. I've had dinner at his house. Come on.
And I know his auntie.
Yeah, right. I wanted to ask, when you were here with the self-printed, with the white border, which I still love this. I still love that this exists. The only version I don't have is a blank. I don't think I have a sketch cover for you guys, which is crazy. Which is absolutely insane. Because I have like 14 sketch covers for you guys.
That's cool. I think we just end this right now and we'll just, sorry. I think we can keep going.
You don't have every single thing we made? We gotta go.
Jeez.
When you were here and you were looking at, were you looking for publishers? Were you like actively going to Image, going to various people, or did SourcePoint show up and say, hey, this stuff's great, can we do something? Like, how did that go down?
We were shopping it, but we were in the web phase, and we printed physical samples to talk to people about. I'll let Kevin jump in here.
Oh yeah, I mean, I got to be honest. I remember talking to a few different publishers and then not getting much response from a few. And for SourcePoint itself, I can't remember. I think I reached out to them, and I think that's how it went. I think I reached out to them, and they're like, "Yeah, this is sweet." And we really seemed to jive with Travis and Josh from the get-go, and they really were pretty much just on board with like, this is sweet, just do your thing. We're like, really? They're like, yeah, just whatever you want to do, just do it. We're like, sweet, that's exactly what we want to do.
Well, it was totally. I think a lot of people got hung up on the format.
Yeah,
that was the thing, and we were drawing it for being shown online, not for traditional comic book format. So that's why everyone's like, that's a really unique format, like.
Well, we had finished the whole first issue and put that online, and that's why we kind of stuck with it like that. And then so we were committed to that format. I think one thing that kind of came from that format, which I'd like to be like, oh, so smart, not. Was that we were doing that kind of to be economical about some things, but also we just kind of liked it. And I think that after we started doing it, we started to see that it had a cinematic kind of quality to it, a lot of like long panels, which I thought, that was something that was cool that came from it that I didn't really realize was going to happen going into it. And it's one of the things I like the most about the book, honestly, is that it had that feel right from the get-go. And I like to think that that's one thing that helped to translate for Brian when he saw it, like to really kind of start to see the shots in his mind's eye. But
yeah, like they're basically it's basically a shot list. Like, this is a cool shot, this is a cool shot, this is a cool shot. No, but that's and that does really help. Like that Marvel, they even call it the widescreen format. They attribute it to Brian Hitch in the first Ultimates run. And he's doing another Ultimate Universe thing right now. And like his stuff always felt big because of those wide. I mean, like, there's just no way around it. But like, there is, again, and I think that also maybe lends itself to those moments and just like retaining those moments in your head. Because I think anybody that's read the first run of Ultimates, that moment where Captain America, it's like, do you think this A stands for France? First of all, hilarious, wonderful writing. But like, just that shot, it's like that punch in, like, you're there, you're in his face, and that's it helps retain that, I think.
A different impact.
Yeah, for sure. And having, it's like they tell you when you make business cards, like, make your business cards kind of a weird shape so they stick out from the pack, right? So yeah, somebody goes to a Comic-Con, they buy a stack of comics, your book's sticking out. What's this? Yep. This is the first one I'm grabbing because it's like throwing off the balance. So I got to pull this one out first. That's what I'm handling first.
We have gotten some playful pushback from Source Point, though, saying like, because our box, like, that it comes in, like, ruins like them packing stuff. like it doesn't fit nicely with other stuff. So sorry.
Nothing wrong with that. Going into volume 2, are you going to stick with the format, or are you going to go more traditional?
We're going to be going more traditional. As much as I'd like to stick with the format, the traditional format lends to doing like more single issues and then like collecting into it a trade and stuff like that. And
selling out, Kevin. You're selling out.
Well, writing wise, like it does allow you to do some different things. Like having that format was cool, but it was also limiting. Sometimes it would add pages,
right?
If you story. So I mean, like, as much as it was kind of saving us some time, sometimes it didn't, because the story had to be told, so you still needed more space. I think it has its benefits and its drawbacks, and going to a more traditional format, it allows the pages to flow differently too when you write them. You can kind of move things around differently.
Yeah.
And your story beats hit a little bit different. And I think overall it's going to be a good thing, but it's not to say that there won't be times where I'm like, oh man, this would be really nice if I could, you know what I mean? It's there's going to be times where I kind of wish the format was different, you'll
just have to start a separate like tie-in mini series that is in this format, web only, because that's the thing right now. Digital comics are everything, right? Web comics have evolved into this vertical scroll format. Usually it's just like scenes and single panels, and once in a while you get a little nice twofer. Of all people, and I honestly, I love Marvel. Like, most of my collection is Marvel at this point, just mostly because I've got like 6 shelves of X-Men over here. But like, I'll be honest, like, they really haven't innovated in a while, right? They don't really do new things. For Marvel, there's the house style, there's the format. This is what we put out, and you're going to take it because it is economical. We have the pipeline built. That's what they do. So they did a digital comic a while back, Spider-Man book. I don't even know if it's canon or if it's I have no idea. It was a good read. And like the 3rd or 4th issue, it literally starts like taking you through turning. So like, as you're following the story, you've got to start turning, and then he's climbing the other way. So you're still scrolling the same direction, but it's like it utilized the format. And I was like, that's cool stuff. Like, that is, who, I don't know if that's a writing decision or artist decision, but it's brilliant, right? Utilizing the format that you have to tell the kind of story that format allows. I mean, everyone dislikes them, but I think there is something to be said about like the early 90s, and for like a couple issues, early 2000s, they did like sideways comics, X-Men Annual 2000 or Extreme X-Men Annual 2001. You got to open it the long way. I was like, this is weird, but I'll go for it. There's something to that. Like, doing something different always puts you in like a different mindset. Like, right, you're doing something different.
To your point, you're gonna have people that be like, that's really cool, and you have other people be like, why the hell would you ever do this? Which is something that we would get.
Yeah,
like
I bet.
I'd be lying if I didn't say. I won't name names, but like, we had publishers be like, what is that? And like, just like basically like back, but be like, ugh, like,
Yeah.
I'm like, are you gonna look at it?
You can read it. It's a great story. You should read it.
Yeah, sometimes that can be tough though. Like in that 30-second pitch, man. Like if something doesn't catch them right away, it can kind of go sour fast. So
The pitch is one of the most important things.
That's why you got to find somebody who's willing to kind of listen to that pitch, and if they do and they believe in it, man, yeah, you roll with it. So
Absolutely. So when you guys, I mean, please feel free to let me know anytime I'm like asking a question that you don't want to answer. But when you guys were talking to Source Point, was it like, hey, let's do this, boom, 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 we're gonna do this, trade eventually, whatever? And then was there a point in the conversation that was like, so about these movies, or was it just like part of the contract, part of the whole deal, like not a big, like, was it something that you were thinking about 5 years ago when I bought this trade? Or 7 years ago when I bought the first issue? Like when did this happen?
There's a few pieces there. I can tell you that early on, when Matt and I were we're writing the stuff and we're putting it together and we're seeing this stuff, Jake's like giving us back, like kind of in the test phase and stuff. We kind of, when we were formatting it, we're putting the act structure together and everything. Matt and I had a moment where like, it's not like what's going to happen or anything, but we're like, man, this really would like translate really well to a movie. Like this feels like this would, like you could just, like we really felt like that. Wouldn't that be cool? But
right. And then you laugh and chuckle and let it go.
Like, it's actually happen, but like you're like, man, God, this really lines up nice, So there was that, and then later, this is a few years ago, like 2020, right before the pandemic, I get a call from Travis McIntyre, and I'm like at work at my 9 to 5, and he or like done for the day. He calls me and he's like, "Hey man, how you doing? Just want to call you, let you know that somebody's interested in optioning, the move North for the Wicked. You interested in doing it?" And I'm kind of like, sure. And he's like, yeah. Don't even give it a second thought. This stuff never happens. You're not, and I believe this might be a direct quote. Nobody's gonna make your movie. He said something. It was close to that, man. I'm in the ballpark, and that was it. I really didn't hear much until like 2022 when he called me again, and he kind of said, "Hey, so remember how we optioned Norse for the Wicked? Things are actually getting kind of serious now." And we didn't know, but Brian Skiba and Corin Nemec had been tooling around trying some things out, and they were starting to get some traction. And they had written 3 or 4 sample scripts, and they were putting some stuff together, and they were starting to get some interest. And then that's when Brian looped us in, and we started kind of just going over backstory and script notes, and that's when we started getting involved. And from there, it was really just kind of each time we would hit some kind of step, like it would be like, oh, we're going to talk about getting some more funding, or like talking to actors, see if like they're interested. I've kind of compared it to The Princess Bride, is how Brian would kind of go about it. Like he was like the Dread Pirate Roberts, and I was Wesley. And he'd be like, good work, Wesley. Most likely kill you in the morning. Like each meeting would end with, hey guys, this is great. It'll probably die. Like, so don't get your hope.
But like really setting the bar low for your expectations. Because I mean, I can understand if it had gone the other way, if you're up here being like, oh, this is so cool, and then like rug pulled out under you, that'd be terrible.
Well, look at how many things die in production, way more die in production.
So many things.
And then like, things get made. And
you can get all the way, and they still pull the plug.
Yeah, still don't find the screen.
# release Batgirl DC, you cowards.
Yeah, exactly.
So I mean, thing was done. Like what?
Yeah, they were like, oh yeah, we're going into editing. All of a sudden, canceled. I'm like, I'm sorry. The fuck you say?
Yeah. Well, I do want to say that when we signed the contract with SourcePoint, we at my request, we put in, if this ever goes to a TV series or a movie, we get cameos. And it was just total pie in the sky.
Oh my God. Yes. I cannot explain to you how long I've been fighting people on the internet about that. That is, wow, thank you so much. Dude, I didn't even have to prompt that. That was, God, I feel so vindicated, guys.
Well, and so the thing is, when we did that, there was not even a hint that they would ever even talk to anybody about making a movie.
Yeah,
They
was
reorganized.
No expectation from us either for that to happen. None.
Yeah.
It's weird to have to get a publisher.
Like, it was awesome that it worked out like that. Although, like, I think Brian would have done it anytime. I don't think he was sitting there, God, I have to work these guys in. Like, he was like, yeah, cool, man, come on out, we'll do it.
But that's I've been saying because there are, look, I'm not gonna name names, but there are some major writers and artists and such that have had like campaigns of like, pay this guy whatever, and people who are like, I got more from my cameo in this movie than I got from the publisher who I wrote this story for and created these characters for. And I'm like, right, but like, it's not in your contract, bro. Like, after 2012, after Avengers put up $1 billion at the box office, anybody starting to write anything, anybody signing a contract in the comic book industry, I think should have 3 things. You pick your payout, so you should have X payout, whatever that payout is, whatever you decide is fair, that's your payout. A guaranteed cameo, because then you get some SAG after fucking checks once in a while when they run it. And guaranteed credit, like writing credit in the movie. I think that's fair. That's not even like a crazy thing. That's a reasonable thing to ask for, especially now that like how many movies, especially for Marvel, have made $1 billion or $2 billion. Like, they've made multiple billions of dollars with these movies, and a bunch of these people are getting like $3,000 checks. Like, if I did something and it made $1 billion and I got a $3,000 check, I'd be pissed too.
Well, I mean, like, let's look at like Endgame, right? Like, I think they had Jim Starlin in the scene where he's like the support circle.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know that.
I think it was Jim Starlin and the Russo brothers were in that.
Yes.
Oh, that's cool. See, that's it.
But yeah, like to that point, like you're talking about, like that's the core for the storyline that was developed for Infinity War and Endgame, right? Is it beat for beat? No, but it's obviously the core of what the story was, right? So give that guy his due, right?
Of course.
Like and I agree. I think that should be considered like kind of like an industry standard for comic book movies. We've had enough where like if the writers for the movie and the director for the movie are obviously pulling from your storyline, then just don't some credit, man. Jeez.
Like, actual credit, like a real payout, like a percentage. Give it like a 0.5 percentage point or a 1/4 percentage point, whatever you think is fair. Like that should be written in a contract. Like I said, ever since Avengers, I think that should be, because I think even back to like Dark Knight and all that, like those were, well-received movies. They made a lot of money, but nothing was like Avengers until Avengers. When Avengers hit $1 billion, that should have changed every contract going forward. Like, I
think Avengers also did something I was skeptical that they could even do, and put everybody together in a movie and make it work and make the story feel good. Yeah. I was skeptical that could even happen. Like, because it
had been tried before and it didn't do great.
Yeah, I remember being very guarded going to see Avengers. Like, I wanted to like it, and I was like, man, it's probably gonna suck. I'm gonna be hurt. And I walked out of there like, oh my god, they pulled it off. I can't believe it. Like, I was so jazzed, man. And I agree. I think that was an inflection point for comic books and the properties and those kinds of movies, to see that, like, yeah, you can do it, and like you can have this like crescendo. And Marvel pulled it off, again, even bigger,
and again, and then again. Like Infinity War is so great, and then Endgame somehow even better. Like, just wild.
I think some of the great parts of Infinity War get forgotten because like the Endgame had just like those like payoff like moments.
Yeah. I mean, I cried at Endgame. Like Avengers Assemble, tears.
Dude. Cap with the hammer. I was like, oh
yeah.
when he picks up
and then like the like genuine glee on Thor's face, I knew it. Yeah. Like, that was so great.
Yeah,
like there's a lot of those payoffs, but yeah, like you said, like Infinity War has those moments. I always think back to the Captain America moment when he's holding off Thanos, and it's like Thanos is trying to crush this dude one-handed because he's like, I'm that guy. Who is this mortal? What is happening? And you can see his face change. He gets annoyed that he's got to use his other hand. I love that moment so much. But to me, that's that moment Jim Starlin wrote all those years ago. As long as one man stands against you, you cannot claim victory. That's the same moment. Just he wasn't saying nothing in the movie, but it's like to me, that's the same moment. So like, if you inspire this, if you wrote the material that then gets translated into this big thing, you should be compensated. Now, are there like they should do the right thing for the people who wrote all these stories, decades ago and years ago before the MCU. But anybody signed up and writing or drawing Marvel stuff since 2012, I feel like if it's not in your contract, if you're not willing to walk away from the project, because the money's there, it's coming. They will I always go back. I always forget his damn name, but the guy who did Hawkeye, they used all his designs and style on the show, like in the intro and all the new suit with the little arrow on the chest. That's all.
The Matt Fraction run.
Yeah, the Matt Fraction run. Like they used a lot of the visual style and a lot of that story in that show, and it's like, there was a whole campaign, and there's still people on Twitter and TikTok and all over the place being like, oh, pay him or whatever. But it's like, that was 2014. Avengers had made $1 billion, and they had kept making movies that were making $700-800 million. Sign the contract, man. Like, and it's like, I think there is, like you were saying before, Jake, like the dream to draw one of these characters that you grew up loving is there. That's like, if I would punch my wife in the face if Marvel was like, we'll give you X-Men for 3 years. I'm sorry, what? Down the stairs, woman. I'd do it and she'd let me. I swear to God. But it's like, if there's very little I wouldn't do to write X-Men, but like I would write those things, and if they were like, no, we can't give you those, I'd be like, well, that's unfortunate, you have a good day. Because it's like, you should be like, I say we, like I'm just starting to write stuff and like create things, but like we are the thing that makes these things. Like with Bob Iger's not writing X-Men. Bob Iger's not writing the next Avengers run. Like if you took out Jason Aaron and all these writers, I forget who's writing it right now because they just relaunched it. But like if you take out these writers, if you take out these artists, the CEOs aren't going to do it. Like Kevin Feige's not cracking down with a pen and paper. Like
they'll just get ChatGPT to write this.
Oh my God, ChatGPT. That's what a
that's as good as a person. You can't even.
Have you guys seen the intro for Secret Invasion?
Yeah.
It's, first of all, it's dog shit. It's dog shit. It looks like garbage. And it's like, I get the point, like it's supposed to make you feel uncomfortable, but like that's not what it's doing. It just looks like shit. Like
it should have been a lot better.
Oh my God. It's like you could have paid someone to draw things that could evoke weird feelings, because people are artists and they could come up with these things that look weird and make you feel uncomfortable. Half of fucking classical art is that.
Somebody for that.
Yeah. And it's like, people like to say, oh, this didn't take away any jobs. And somebody rightfully pointed out, here is the list of people who worked on the Ms. Marvel intro. It's like 14 names. And here are these 6 people, 3 of which are like executives who worked on this intro.
Yeah.
How are you going to tell me you didn't take away jobs? Like,
right.
Well,
it's like,
what I'm waiting for is ChatGPT to ask for better representation. then we'll have come full circle.
Yeah, ChatGPT needs a cameo.
It's gonna be like, am I gonna get credit for this? It just like it starts writing, you'll see the first paragraph, and then it just pauses. Like, am I gonna get credited for this? Oh,
I have electricity to pay for.
We're probably not far off from like a disclaimer that says something to the effect of like, this was made 100% by people or something like that.
I've been telling artists for months now, ever since this whole thing kind of blew up at the end of last year. I'm like, everyone's gonna join me in the process camp. I want to see your sketches. I want to see 17, 14, 36 layers. I want to see it, because if I can't see it and it looks like Chet, like Mid-Journey or whoever did it, they probably, as far as I'm concerned, if I don't see your process, they did it.
Right.
The computer did it. You didn't do shit.
Yeah, I think we're probably going to start seeing stuff like that on TikTok and Instagram. Like people are like, show me your art, show me you did it. And there's going to be some people who aren't going to care, because they want, AI to do Wes Anderson does Dennis the Menace next, or whatever. Like when the Wes Anderson Star Wars thing came out, like people were going nuts, and then it was like somebody did like Lord of the Rings, and then they did something else, and I'm like, oh, cool. So it's actually not really a fun idea. It's like you're just like, hey, I found one interesting thing, and I'm going to rerun it like 50 times, and I'm going to act like it's like true, genuine, artistic inspiration, and it's not. It's not.
It's literally a what if machine, and people are gonna burn through it. I honestly think like the
interest.
like I think the people that are going to be using this regularly are the people who to an artist at a show would have been like, oh, it's how much is it for a sketch? I don't know, or the people who are like,
Yeah.
oh, I've got Photoshop at home, I could probably do that. But it's like, well, go do that, motherfucker. Like, so like, I think those are the people you don't want to deal with anyway as an artist. Like, you don't want these hagglers.
No.
Oh, I'm do it for exposure, bro. Fuck those people. And those are the people that are going to be using this stuff, spitting out 1,000 Wes Anderson knockoffs. And then that trend will die. And then no one will ever look at those images ever again.
I think one positive thing that could come from this is I think it could start to put a premium back on people, like seeing people do the art or actual physical one of a kind pieces, when an artist actually does have the pencils to show, I think that can happen, but I think that will still be diluted by people who are just like, I don't care, just give me the art, like, and I don't care if AI did it or whatever, which, have fun with 6 figures, I guess.
I played with it. I thought it had potential, but it had potential as like a stepping stone. Because I was watching someone do art on their tablet or whatever, and I saw them use they were like recreating, or not recreating, but like creating a new Superman movie poster, super minimalistic, like just geometric stuff. But then they drew out the logo and then they extruded it like with the extrude tool, just like gave us some 3D and then expanded it. And I was like, what's funny? 10 years ago, you'd be laughed at for using that. It's the same. Like we're kind of in the same inflection point of like, this is just going to be a tool that like in 5 years, artists who are just like really fucking good at their shit, they're just going to use this to speed up the boring, stupid shit parts of their work. Like there's this guy, Max Smith. I don't know if you guys have seen him around shows or whatever, or if you've seen stuff. He does a book called Scurry. I think it was just published through either Dark Horse or Unlikely Heroes, one or the other. Regardless, a great book. I backed his Kickstarter. I got his art book. Like, love his stuff. It's like post-apocalyptic animals talking. Fantastic, beautifully painted art. Obviously, he's got his process, so like I know he did it. It's well before all this nonsense. So like he used Midjourney to do this piece, and he posted it on Instagram, and he like explained what he did, and he like spent 10 hours with prompts to pull out the correct images and the correct looking images, and then he spent 50 more hours of drawing and painting to make it look like what he wanted to. And I was like, if you could, as an artist, program, like just be like, here's all of my pieces, program a piece of software to draw simple shit for you, why wouldn't you save some time? This guy draws background mice for 3 hours a day for the last 5 years. If he could just be like, draw me 15 background mice, and it just does that, cool. Now he saved a bunch of time, and he can make all the rest of the more important part, the story characters, make them cooler and more interesting. Like there's something to that. And like I always use the like Todd McFarlane, right? If Todd McFarlane could feed his art into his stuff, why shouldn't Spawn by Todd McFarlane come out 20 years after he's dead, published by his kids who have the rights to do that with a program that is programmed with his art? I don't know.
I think you're hitting the legal parts of it there. No, but you got to have ownership.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, of course. This nonsense where it like pulled from everyone's art. Fuck that shit. That's just so dumb.
But you nailed it right there. That is there is a huge difference in if it's yours, right? And if it's, that's why that one book, it's like Zara of something, where it got, I can't remember the name of it, but it got rejected by the Copyright Office after it was initially accepted, because this person had used something like Midjourney for all of the pictures, and they said, well, they were my prompts, and they said, yeah, but those prompts came from copyrighted images.
Yeah.
And so you didn't do it though, and that's the thing. And so what you're talking about is like, if I actually agree with you, like if he's using his images, right, from his copyrighted stuff, yeah, go nuts, that's yours, right?
Your IP.
Or like if somebody has some kind of aggregator that does like from a database of copyrighted images that you pay like a licensing fee for, I'm like, well, I guess you signed up for the licensing fee and you can do it then.
Right.
That is different. Now,
and artists can have like the option to be part of that like library or whatever.
Yeah.
Not like, because that's the problem with Midjourney is it started as like a college, it was like just a test, like we're just trying to figure out if this is going to work. So then they just pulled from everywhere on the internet, and then it like suddenly evolved and became a public thing and became like for profit. And now it's like, yeah, but your database is still like off of shit you pulled off the internet. That's kind of fucked up.
No, it's actually just illegal.
Yeah, it's like it's outright like it's outright you've just copied shit. And it's like, yeah, no, we've given people the option to like opt out. Cool, but like that should have been the default. You should have started there. You should have started with, hey, we're going to be scouring the internet for source material. Do you want to be part of this? No.
Yeah, you can't.
Cool,
Can't
we'll turn you off
if you want. Like it's up to me to find what you took.
Yeah, right. That's usually how it is, right? That's usually how it is. It's funny because like early 2000s, I was a big like theme guy on Windows XP. People would do themes and do wallpapers and stuff like that, and I saw people like copying people's wallpapers and passing it off as their own. Like it's the same image. It's like they might have cropped it a little differently and then just pass it off as their own. And I was like, wow, like that's kind of fucked up that people would do that. Like I just never thought that was such a big deal. And then like every year it was somebody was like, oh, I just saw this person selling prints of my artwork on this other website. And then it just kept like every year somebody, and then more somebodies and more somebodies. And I'm like, can motherfuckers just stop stealing people's shit? Like these, there are so many artists out there. And it's like, you have created this environment, like people who steal the stuff, people who stole the stuff for years have created an environment where people who have high quality art have made their art completely ungettable. Like they're behind a paywall for everything. Like there are some people who are like, oh, that's really cool stuff. And then I like go to their page and I'm like, oh, it's a straight up Patreon and you can't see anything unless you're $5 a month in. I'm like, I don't know about that. So it's like, I get to make that decision as a consumer, but like, I like looking at cool shit. Like I save pictures for my desktop at home. I don't share it with nobody. I don't broadcast it. And I definitely don't tell people I did it. Like it's so ridiculous to me. Like I straight up traced a Spider-Man, a Joe Madureira Spider-Man from X-Men 346, Uncanny X-Men 346. And I still have that comic book because I did the, like, you put the piece of paper behind it and you draw over the lines hard. That's how I did it. So I still have that comic book because I'm like, but I always tell people, I'm like, I copied this shit. I straight up traced this. It's like people told, I tell people like, oh, like there's a piece of Gambit and Rogue that I did years ago, high school. And I always tell, like when I talk to people about it, I'm like, this is mimicry. Like I mimicked art styles because I looked at a Gambit by Joe Madden, I looked at a Rogue by Chris Bacallo, and I drew those two things. I modified Rogue to look taller just because it's different styles. That's all I did. That was my input. But they're not my drawings. Like the shadows are theirs. They drew their shadows. The lighting's different. Like everything's theirs. And people are like, oh no, it's not mimicry. Like you drew it. I'm like, but I didn't draw it from up here. I didn't use like a reference photo and then draw Gambit. I looked at a piece of art that someone else drew and drew it line for line. Like that's copying. There's just no way around that. Like people like to just, that's why like a lot of people like to go after what's his face, Greg Land, motherfucker, with his porno images that he constantly copies and traces and uses the same exact, like the same woman who's having an O. That's everyone's surprise face in every X-Men book for the last 10 years. It's like it's the same face. It's like that's Jean Grey, Emma Frost, and Pixie all look the same when they're surprised. Like let's try to swing it back into normal shit here. Christ, we got so fucking far. Fucking AI, man. Fucking AI. Jake, with your stuff, with your art, do you use any kind of reference or is this something that you just develop your style through years of sketches and years of drawing?
Yeah, years of drawing, years of sketches. Very comfortable with the pencil. I'm a disaster with ink. I just am so comfortable with pencils. That's always been my wheelhouse. And I think, in terms of reference, there's always been artists who've been influences. But you kind of have your own voice, your own style, but there's always people who you draw influence from. So
can I guess one? And only because in like certain angles, I just see a little bit of his style. Can I guess?
Sure.
Carlos Pacheco.
No.
Really? Yeah,
Yeah.
just like certain angles, like just the chin. And that's the thing. Like,
Yeah.
that's how I identify his art for years. The way he draws a chin. I was like, man, like this.
You know, it's
and I
funny.
flip it open. I'm like, that's him.
It's so funny because there's artists who've been an influence, but then my art really doesn't, I guess, reflect like those influences, even though they've been like an influence. Like I don't like my style doesn't like mimic their style or anything or draw things from that. But they're definitely influences. And guys like, man, I wish I could draw that. Like, you know, just do what they do, but it doesn't like really, I feel like, translate into my work so much. So kind of weird, I guess, but they have influences, but that don't translate. But
no, but it takes like, once you develop your own style, it's hard to like go back and try to replicate. Like once you have certain elements and certain things, like I used to like trace, I say trace, Michael Turner. He had a Fathom cover that I used as a pose to draw so many characters. I drew like, I think I have somewhere around here. I have an art book of like my drawings from years ago. I did like a Women of Marvel collection. I think probably half of them are just that pose,
right,
different suits pasted on top. Like, but like now, I like probably a couple years ago, I tried to draw that same pose and I couldn't do it because like I had, upon years and years of drawing, I just don't draw like that anymore. So I can't even replicate the same arm pose or the way the arm is long. Like it doesn't make sense to me. Like while I'm drawing it, I'm like, no, it's too long. So I like erase it and go back.
Yeah. I think it's funny because I think there's definitely guys that I tried to emulate, but I couldn't. You know, like that they are distinctly masters in their, you know, like they're in their own right, and like every step of the way. Like I think about being a kid and then in college and then early on when we started getting back to this stuff, like there's like at certain points in my life, there's certain guys I followed and I just loved what they did, but I you know, you again draw influence from that, but it just never translated into my voice. I think I took all those things, learned from them, tried to assimilate them, I guess, you know, but yeah, I think I just have my own style.
Well, that's great. That's, you know, it keeps it unique. It keeps it fresh.
Absolutely.
Because,
well, you want your own voice. You want your own voice.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's why like I like to always point it as an example, Roger Cruz, who is one of my favorite artists for many different characters. But like back in like 94, 95, Roger Cruz was carbon copy Joe Mad. Like if you like copied a piece of Joe Mad, but then just like skewed the paper on the copy bed for a second, like that's what it was. And like he flat out took poses that Joe Mad did and he just redrew different characters in it. Like you could see it, you could follow the like path of what he copied. And then 4 years later, he's doing X-Men and I'm reading it and I'm like, who's the artist? Like this looks so kind of weird. Like everybody's kind of like stubby, like kind of everyone's kind of like bulky. And I look at it and it's Roger Cruz. I'm like, this looks nothing like Joe Mad. Like, what the fuck happened? And then like now he just did the recent Robin run and looked nothing like either one of those. Like he finally like developed this kind of live, like it has like the kind of fusion style that Joe Mad is known for, but it looks nothing like Joe Mad's art. Like it's in the same like group of artists, if you will. But like I didn't know it was Roger Cruz, and I'm a fan of his shit. And I was like, I've been looking at this Robin book for months, and I'm like, holy shit, it said Cruz. I was like, oh, who's this Cruz fellow? What the fuck?
Great revelation there. Yeah.
Like it's when you put in the work and just develop your style, like you said, like you will have a unique look. Like right now, I mean, in the 90s, 6 or 7 guys all looked like that. They all looked exactly.
Oh yeah. It's kind of like the school of this look.
Yeah, know? Exactly. Yeah, I mean, like the early 90s is the school of Jim Lee. Almost everybody was like, I want to do what Jim Lee does. And now even Jim Lee can't do what Jim Lee does. So like it's like everyone has, the people who stuck with it have developed their styles. And what I'm seeing now the most in as far as art and as far as like the type of storytelling we're seeing in especially major publishers, people who grew up on web comics more so than physical comics are going into writing comics and drawing comics, and it's bringing an entirely different style than has existed previously in comics. I actually just had a big ass argument with somebody on Twitter because of somebody who did a recent Marvel book, and it it looked kind of like web comic-y, like it was very like simple, like very anime influenced, very light, which is fine. Like it's, you know, whatever. For me, I'm personally willing to like forgive a lot of bad art for a good story. So I read and I'm like, because I've picked up books that look great, and then I'm like 3 pages in, I'm like, my eyes are bleeding. Why is it saying this? I'm like, first of all, there's typos. I'm like, you couldn't even spell check, bro. Like it gets rough. It's like, you know, especially in the indie space, you know, they find like the best, hottest artists or whatever, or they are the best, hottest artists, but then they also wrote the book, and it's like, yeah, sometimes you can't do both. Like you just, you know, I know I'm not a production quality artist. I'm never going to draw my own book. Like I did that for a indie anthology once, and it looks the way it does because I am who I am. Like it looks as bad as it does because I'm not a great artist. That's just, I'm willing to admit that, then move on. I know that I need to but like pay for an artist because I'm not going to be the one drawing it, and I want it to look a certain way. And it was one of those things like you can have great art and shit story, and I'm not going to necessarily be interested. But if it's a great story, it will elevate some of the worst.
Sure, absolutely.
But that you guys managed to bridge the whole thing. I mean, like this book, like before we even see the movie next week, or when you're watching it or listening to this podcast tomorrow, guys, it comes out tomorrow. The book itself is such a like pleasure to read. It looks great. You said you're not great with inks, but I think the way you guys ended up doing this with the color on top of the pencils, I have gone on record in saying that I don't love that very often, except when it's executed at the best and highest levels. And I think you guys murdered that. I think you guys killed it. Like, I'm gonna just put this up to the camera here. Like, that just looks great. It looks great. It brings a vibe to it. It has a like it almost puts you in that kind of faded film. Like it puts you in the space of the Western, which I love.
It gives it character. It's like, I mean, like it's got a different feel, a different vibe, and that was something we worked hard on, because again, like ink's not my strong point. So how do we complement the pencils? How do we really make that work? And
there was a lot of tinkering that went into that, and we experimented with kind of doing some different things with the pencils and saying we wanted to do it. The more we talked, the more we said that like we just really liked the way Jake's pencils kind of flowed, and they gave it an extra kind of texture, and we didn't want to lose that. And so we just tried to find a way to kind of balance it. And it took a lot of back and forth, but once we settled on it, we were pretty happy, and the aesthetic really worked. And we kind of, we kind of talked about the aesthetic being something similar to like if you'd gone into your grandpa's attic and you found like an old like dime novel or something, like this would be like it'd feel like that cover of that, like that worn kind of cover, and feel like that.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're going for.
That's awesome. And it worked out perfectly. I'm such a big fan of this. I mean, I shout you guys out all the time. Anytime somebody's like, I need a recommendation, I'll be like, well, number one on my list is always going to be No Rest for the Wicked. Like, don't even, I've got a list. That whole shelf over here, this is all indie books. I've been buying. I've been indie.
Yeah.
That's why I'm the indie hype man. Like I'm all over the place with indie. I'm buying horror. I'm reading horror, which I never thought I'd read horror. I love books like yours that kind of bridge a certain, like, you bring in a little horror element, you bring in a little like mysticism. It's not like straight magic and like we're dealing with sorcery and all this stuff, but like it brings in these fantastical elements to just spice the story up. And I fucking love this book, guys. I love this book. The new trade, I wanted to ask first of all, I wanted to tell you guys, because you gotta look, see, it's like the signature is like wearing off. You guys got to sign on the inside, man. You got to sign on the inside. People read these books. I'm handling these books. Come on.
What's great? We normally do handle sign them on the inside, and that just proves how early you were in getting that.
That probably was the one that taught us a lesson.
Hey, I'm day one, guys. I'm day one. Let's see, 2012. I forgot this was. Damn, I've known you guys for a long time. Shit. It has been a while. I flipped to the back page, and there's no bonus sequence. There's no bonuses. So I wanted to ask you, we're talking about, you went through some iterations of the art. We played around with some certain things. When's the Universe M art book coming out? Like, I want to see all the behind the scenes. I want to see the early scripts. I want to see, like, give it to me. That's like my shit, guys. That's I need it.
Well, actually, that is in the special edition. We have
And the new one that dropped.
Yeah, like we have character art in there, and bonus sketches, stuff like that. Like the very first sketch of Reno that Jake did, where he's kind of playing around, and you can tell Reno's not quite there yet, but it's in that direction. We actually have a new open, because the open to the first edition there, that was like our test. That was like our test to see if we and we just liked the action of how it opened, so like we kept it.
Yeah, that
really that was kind of a I don't want to say like happy accident, but like we were kind of figuring out what we wanted to do, and that 2-page was like our flavor piece for the book, like for what we wanted to do. And we just liked the way it opened so much, we kept it. But we actually did a new 2-page open for the
like all new.
Yeah.
Well, guys, now I got to get another version of this book.
Jeez. And we'll sign the cover.
You will sign. Okay, yeah, absolutely. You'll sign on the inside cover. Are you guys going to be at Fan Expo Chicago? August.
As of right now, no.
Shenanigans.
I know.
Hopefully they do the Artist Alley a little better this year. Last year was kind of a mess. It was like 3 areas. I was there for 2 days, and somebody was like, "Oh, they're right down the strip here." I was like, "I've been here for 2 whole days and I haven't seen this person." Like, it's crazy. Like, all right. So the new book has the special features. I love that. I'd still like a separate art book. You know, I'll buy it. I'll buy it and I'll pimp it so other people will buy it. So, like, I'm just saying, special edition, first ticket holders, something low, Do you guys know where this movie is going to be releasing? How many theaters? Like, do you have any of those pieces of information?
Yeah, no details. It's going to be select theaters. Lionsgate will make those selections, and we'll find out hopefully on July 7th. But
yeah, it's getting a theatrical release, but then also hopefully on we're not sure like what streaming platform. We're still in the dark on a couple things that way. So
what we can guarantee is the same day it's out in theaters as you can get it on iTunes. Mm-hmm. You can buy it that day. So
sick.
Yeah. So it's, I don't know, kind of like that model that emerged during the pandemic, where you can get
day and release.
Yeah. So so like, though we can't guarantee, like we just don't know the theaters off the top of our head. We don't have like the list, but that one we can guarantee, which is still pretty cool. So
that's awesome. Yeah. I can't wait. Gives me time to reread the book again for the however manyth time. So it drops on the 7th. So it comes out tomorrow. I'm so fucking excited for you guys. So fucking.
We're having fun, no doubt about it. Like, I want to go back to something you touched on earlier. You're talking about the card scene in the book. Like, my favorite thing to draw when we did the book. Day 2 of being on set. We were there when they filmed it, and
awesome.
For me, it was like a moment, because that was like my favorite scene to draw, and then see them film it and be on set for that. That was a lot of fun. So like this whole thing is like so unbelievable, and like still trying to process it. To be able to do it with my brothers, with my brothers. We've been doing like drawing stuff and like since we were kids doing all this stuff, and then like be on set and be kids again. We're like.
There were several scenes shot in the saloon. They kind of, everything's out of order when you're shooting it.
Yeah.
One day when we were in the saloon, like Matt and I were like in the background, like doing like different stuff. Like we were actually like organizing the cards and making sure they like dealt right. We had like a special deck just for shuffling and stuff like that. And like, so we're kind of like doing some stuff. And then one day, like where they're shooting kind of like some of Jack's parts, right? And they have like the camera set up a particular way. They just grabbed me and Matt and they said, "Get into wardrobe right now." And so like we had like our wardrobe from being like extras, and like a different scene where we got to shoot some guns. But like the assistant director, Will, he just grabs me and he goes, "Okay, walk across the room." And I'm like, "You're filming?" He's like, "Go." And I'm like, "Oh God, okay, we'll go." So I just walk, and like I just walk up to the bar and act like I know what I'm doing. And like they're giving me shots of apple juice. Like, I get the fire, and then like I don't know what to do. Like I'm just there and like interacting with people. Like without saying anything.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, in costume comes and like grabs me. He's like, and then I'm like, okay, that's what I do now. And like we did that a few times, and like so it was like to be watching the scene was awesome, and then to be in the scene was great because when they flipped the cameras around, then they put Jake at the table like on the other side.
Yeah, I was playing a poker game.
Yeah, and so
Hell
Jake
yeah.
yeah, and so it was fun to see how that like all kind of evolved, and it was really cool to kind of get thrown in like that.
That's
so
awesome. That's so freaking cool. That's tell me, you guys, like, did you guys record any behind the scenes stuff? Like,
So
yeah.
much.
I love
So
to hear. I
much.
love to hear so much. So much is so great for me.
Yeah, no, just absolutely a ton of stuff, and it's fun to look back on. It's crazy right now with the movie coming out, like seeing like cast and crew posting stuff on social media, and like just like incredible experience. Like at one point, Kevin and we looked at each other and like, what are we doing here? And we're like, and then we were like, how do we ever go back to the real world?
no, I'm still coming to terms with that.
Yeah.
I bet, man. I bet it's a whole different thing. Like when you reach a certain like level and you're doing certain kind of like caliber of things, like not the same thing, obviously, but I did a shoot for like a video shoot for somebody a few years ago, and it was the dumbest thing. They gave me a golf cart the second day. They're like, yeah, just so you can get around, get to your stuff, get to your equipment. I was like, dope. And I'm going back to like grab my drone, and I'm driving this go-kart. I was like, or golf cart. I mean, I'm sitting there and I'm like, this is how fucking should be. Like, this is how I should be treated. Give me like, don't we walk around this entire fairgrounds to go get a drone? Give me, this is how it should be. So it's like the next time I was on a different shoot, I was like, wish I had a fucking golf cart. Like,
going forward, golf cart in contract.
Yeah. In the contract. That's how it happens.
Yeah.
Like, there's actually, I can show us the go-kart.
No, my big ass ain't fitting no golf cart or go-kart. Jeez, man. My cousin tried to get me to do go-karts. I'm like, dude, if I get into that thing, I'm never getting out. Like, it's crazy. They're gonna have to yank me out. They're gonna have to disassemble it around me.
Actually, speaking of behind the scenes stuff, I'll let Matt tell this part. But like, Matt got there a few days before us. Matt, you remember what you sent us?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, so I got there the day before shooting and was helping set up. And then, the next day was filming. They shoot the very first scene, and it's Reno coming out of the desert. And so I send Kevin and Jake some pictures. They're not going to be there till the end of the week. I send them a picture of Jack Kilmer coming up the ridge a little bit, and then also of the sticks with Dead Man's Hand on it. And then also Jack did me a solid and let me get a picture of his fingers, and he had the stitched up fingers for Reno, and my phone just starts blowing up after I send these pictures, and it's my brother's going, I hate you, we need to get there now, you're the worst.
And I was just like, what?
Yeah, my head exploded. I was like, no way.
That's awesome. So like going from that, like, this is happening, to then seeing it, that must have been just like a whole nother jump. Like, oh my God, this is really, really happening. Like, knowing something and then seeing something are two different things.
Yeah. That made it pretty real for me that day.
There was a point where Jake and I got to set together, and I don't remember how soon it was on set, but like at one point Jack was walking up and he had his full gear on, and he had the scarf on and everything, and me and Jake were just kind of like hitting each other, like, dude.
Yeah.
It was pretty sweet.
Actually, let me add something. I don't think I told you guys. So
all this time,
there's still things that come to mind. I designed the cards that went into the card games, and we had 10 sets of these cards made. And one of the first things I did was I gave Jack a deck of cards because he was supposed to have some, and he immediately was carrying them with him all the time in his vest pocket. He had them on in the very first scene underneath because he was supposed to have them with him, and it was awesome that he always had that presence of mind for details and things.
Yeah, well, his assistant that was working with him when we were on set, I actually gave Jack 2 original pieces from the book. So I gave him 2 original boards, and he was just like, these are great. I was like, yeah. And then his assistant said he had like the book, and he actually tore the pages out of the book, but put them all up on the wall in his trailer. So he was like really absorbing
That's awesome.
character and everything, and really trying to, get a feel for Reno, and that was just awesome, and
That's what Josh said. They had to send him multiple books.
Yeah. Yep.
That's awesome. I want to ask, this is a complete, like, such a silly little thing. Is Reno ever given a last name, like, in the story itself, or is he just always Reno?
So actually, in what we wrote, we were kind of holding on to that as like we had plans for that. In the movie, they fast forward that a little bit, and they give like his whole name. But actually, that was like that was a fun thing. Like when we first saw the first draft from Brian and Corin had been working exclusively off the book, right? They didn't know that me and Matt had like we had like 40 pages of like backstory for people, like seriously, that we had worked out for Chato, Mato, Reno's family, like who you don't even know yet.
Yeah.
Reno's love interest, like all this stuff we had planned out that we just hadn't gotten to yet. We're just like out because we wanted to make sure we knew who the characters were and their motivations, and like so it helps when we put them in a scene, we know what they're going to do, right? So we got like the first version, and like he'd given, I think it was like Reno King or something like that, he named him or something. And his name is like that we come up with is am I spoiler? Am I being a spoiler right now?
I'm putting that in your hands.
But his name is actually Jean Reno, and everybody just calls him Reno. But we didn't explain that because we were actually saving that for something, right?
Sure.
And so like we're like expecting like, oh man, how's Brian gonna feel about this? He like we show him, he's like, oh cool, and like we get like the next version of like the script, and like he's like gone through and like made like all these edits, like we're like, oh that's really cool, like he actually did like our backstory that we did.
That's awesome.
He just didn't have it, like he didn't know.
Yeah.
And so like when we kind of told him that stuff, he was like, oh yeah, this is good, yeah, let's do it. Like he was just giving him backstory and a name and stuff because he didn't have that info because we intentionally didn't provide it in the book. So
that's all. See, that's really cool. I love that they were willing to like modify it. It's not like, oh, we've made this decision already. It sounds like it was a really like collaborative process. I mean, like you guys are setting up cards, you're in the shots, like it's not this does not sound like any of the like other kind of movies that I've seen behind the scenes of, where it's like, here
we made Sticks of Dynamite, we made Confederate Bills, we made wanted posters. We were on set, we were involved, we weren't just flies on the wall, we were doing
awesome
stuff.
Yeah. Matt and I are executive producers on it, and Matt actually was working with the art department a lot because he's just got that skill set. And he was there for the whole shoot, and one of the first things he did was he made like the sign for Crooked Creek, and sent me a picture of that. And have you been able to get your hands on that, Matt? Was Thomas able to help you?
They were doing a very serious search for it. I haven't heard if it's turned up.
Bummer. I put that on you for forgetting to grab that.
You gotta have a rap day steal.
It's a 4 foot long sign.
And you should have found a way. Find a way.
You just put it under your vest, pretend like it's not there.
No,
it's my carry-on.
Oh my god, that's fantastic. It's funny because like I always remember his name because for whatever reason I don't remember any plot point from this TV series, but I always remember the character's name. Do you guys remember the show Renegade?
Yeah.
Lorenzo Lamas?
Reno Reigns Renegade, and that's all I remember. I know that he had a motorcycle, long hair, and his name was Reno Reigns. That is wild. I don't know. It just the
there were a lot of leather vests.
I gotta tell you.
Oh my god, the leather vest. Yes, that's
great hair.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I had no idea what his actual character name was until just now, but I just always knew it was Lorenzo Lamas because I would always watch like through the intro and I'd be like, yeah, I'm good.
The 90s had like really interesting actors that were like doing lots of things, because the other one that I always remember from the American Ninja series of films is Michael Dudikoff. What a fucking name. That's the guy's real name. Like Dudikoff. I was like, damn, he was the coolest guy when he was a kid. Like,
how could you not be?
Right? But it's like
You,
you
you
had
call him
those,
the dude or the
Well,
cuff?
yes,
right?
I feel like it's a lot of pressure. Like you don't want a last name that's like Swift and you're slow. Like you got to be the dude, man. Like
Yeah, you gotta be the coolest guy in the room. You gotta be the coolest guy in the room. Hell yeah. No, that's I'm these stories. I appreciate the behind the scenes stories. That's so cool. I love you guys. You guys are fucking awesome. Fucking awesome. I'm so glad you guys had this time to spend with me. I appreciate it. For everyone watching, listening, make sure you check out this movie. Make sure you check out the book. I'm gonna be getting another copy because I gotta get that behind the scenes artwork because that's just who I am. I'm a real fan. I'm a real fan. So if you're a real fan, you gotta get all the stuff. So
We appreciate it.
I fucking love you guys. Yeah, I can't wait to see you again, man. I can't wait to see you
Really
again.
mutual.
I want to just give me your socials. Give me, where can people find you? How can people bother you about this movie and talk to you and hype this stuff up?
Twitter is K-Miner58, and then our Universe M is on Twitter is just Universe M Go, all one word.
I gotta think about it. And I never look at my own.
While you're thinking about it,
I know him. How do I know his? He doesn't know his.
Well, it's at Matthew S. Minor on Instagram, and then I forget on Twitter.
I think it's the same.
They're really close.
Yeah, I think you're really good at synergy.
yeah, and your hat looks great.
That is a great hat.
Cartoon. This is a prop.
I was gonna say that feels like you brought that with you.
I bought this in Santa Fe, and then I got to wear it as a U.S. Marshal in another cameo.
Nice. You guys are getting checks from every department. You guys are cameoing. You guys are producing.
I realized that was your hat when you did the U.S. Marshal thing.
That's right, because they were going to grab the gummy hat again. And
yeah, you can't see the prospector.
No, you're gonna use that. I was wearing this one for safety, and they said, actually that one's fine. Wear that one.
I think Gummy the Prospector is getting a one shot.
Revenge of Gummy.
Yeah.
You can follow me on Instagram at Jake_Miner_art.
Awesome. I'll have all that, of course, linked. Thank you guys again for hanging out with me. Appreciate it. Everything will be linked. I will share this as soon as it's ready, and I cannot wait to see this fucking movie, guys.
Thanks, Juan.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.